Welcome. Roll call. All members present except the mayor and member Dietrich. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Purpose of the meeting. I'll turn it over to Alex.
So tonight, council is holding a public meeting pursuant to section 28 sub 5 of the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to give members of the public the opportunity to ask questions, provide comments, or make representations on the proposed community improvement plan. A community improvement plan is an economic development tool that allows a municipality to implement certain financial incentive programs, such as loans or grants, to be accessed by property owners and businesses that provide benefits to the community overall within a designated community improvement plan area.
The community improvement plan, Director Ralph will provide the high-level overview of the proposed community improvement plan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good evening, Council. So following up from the last report that was brought forward by us for the community improvement plan, it was sent out for public consultation for roughly 3 or 4 weeks. A survey was. Within that survey, we got 30 respondents. And the consensus was the respondents are in support of the CIP, that it would be applied municipal-wide and be focused on business retention or expansion and Main Street downtown revitalization. Grants and permit application fee reductions were chosen method of achieving that with the tier program not far behind. It was a mixed response when asked if the tier was a good idea, implementing that program. 23% strongly agreed and 23% strongly disagreed, with 37 somewhat agreeing. Accessibility upgrades were identified as the most important, but job creation and improvements to build facades coming in second and third, respectively. So, sorry, job creation, improvements to building facades coming in second and third, respectively. Municipal fees and taxes, along with high construction costs, were identified as the biggest barriers. So that was the survey. I also sent out a mass email to roughly 100 persons, builders, realtors, stakeholders, developers, community committees, etc. And with that, I received 4 emails back. Those comments have been collaborated, paraphrased, and responses provided that were in the attachments. One of those comments was from an Albert Mayor, Stubbies, who mentioned the implementing affordable housing within the TIER program. Staff did speak about that internally. And then we are also, through those discussions, through those conversations, a new optional subclass tax bracket that the Ontario government has introduced in 2025 was brought up. That is something that staff is going to investigate further and try to obtain the framework for that and bring it back for council's consideration. The remainder of the comments that impacted the CIP were provide professional fees to be included in the eligible projects. That's been updated in the CIP. Removal of derelict buildings as a restriction. That's also been updated. Provide for unlimited incentive programs. Instead, previously there was 2 streams. Now it's unlimited, but there's a cap, $20,000 or 50%. The ability to stack funding from other sources. So that's been added into the CIP. And the addition of rear parking lot creation or revitalization. That has also been added. Is there any other questions or any questions from council?
Thank you through the report for the report. I can remember about over a decade ago, there was an initial community improvement plan, but since that time, council's been setting aside money every year, and I see that we've got around 350,000 in a reserve. I'm just wondering, for the CIP, how much are we planning on potentially spending each year, and are we hoping to be net zero, or are we going to continue to invest in this program? Because I think in terms of economic development, there's a lot of benefits that council has this mechanism.
Through the chair, we had discussed at a staff level that this is the first year for the CIP. And now it depends on when it's passed, but we were hoping to go quite kind of high, at least for the first year, to get some interest in it and continue to include it in the budget of $30,000 a year.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think the last report in April suggested 50,000 for this year, or up to 50,000 this year, and then it said that the CIP administrator, CAO, and treasurer would look into 2027 what it might look at moving forward. I guess the question is that it's not in this report tonight. Is it still the 50,000 for that? And then my other question is, who would be considered the CIP administrator?
Through the chair, we thought 50,000 for this year because it's a half year. We were kind of looking at closer to 100,000 for next year. And the CIP administrator would be Mike.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. In terms of the CIPs moving forward, how long do these, is this a 5-year CIP? Is this a 1 year, like in terms of the plan? So I guess my question is, like, say if conditions change over the next year or two, can a future council, reinvestigate and add to the plan or remove things, or is this kind of in place for 5 years?
Through the mayor, or through the chair, there isn't a set timeline for it. It can be reviewed at any time and amended, although there is a process.
Member Oak.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The accessibility criteria or grant application, I guess, when somebody maybe makes a submission, an application under that umbrella, are we going to reach out to the Accessibility Advisory Committee or Julie or anybody? How are we going to decide if it's truly an accessible project and if it should be tweaked because it's not really meeting the accessibility nature that it needs to be or whatever? I guess just wondering on those kind of applications.
Through the chair. So it has not been contemplated whether or not to bring that to the Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee. Most of these projects will most likely be smaller projects, just to obtain accessibility into the building, I'm assuming, is what we're expecting anyways. That application would come to myself and I would review it for its accessibility aspects and whether or not it does meet that stream. That's all I got.
And through the chair as well, if there's a permit involved, there's a timeline as well that will need to be followed.
Correct.
Through the building code.
If they do need a building permit to do whatever they're proposing to do, there's a 10-day timeline that we'll have to turn that around and issue the permit with the CIP.
Member Vaughn.
Thank you. And thank you for your report, Mike. The first thing I wanted to ask about was the TIER program, the tax incremental equivalent rate rebate. We did see that in the draft in April. And at that time, it was basically talking about this program being one that you would be introducing to incent the creation of employment opportunities. And so even in the beginning of the actual CIP preamble, it talked about looking to improve incentive for employment land. So opportunities to potentially reduce taxes for investments of 25 million plus for add-ons to particular buildings or expansions of business. And then with this revision, likely, maybe not exclusively, but likely because of Stubby's input, there's been a little clause added about including in the tier program non-market programs, which deal with housing affordability, I'm assuming. So a different flavor than what was introduced in the beginning of the CIP was coming through with this non-market program. So when I looked at the commentary around tier programs, what struck me is it's difficult for council to make a decision about this being a good thing or not, because there's very little information about what we're possibly considering as thresholds for reduction of tax rates. There's no percentage, not even a range mentioned. And although it did say that there would be work for our Treasury Department, it didn't give us any idea of the impact that it might have from a monetary perspective on the municipality. So I understand our incentives 1 through 5, but when we get to the tier program, financially, I really have no idea what we're looking at here. So I agree that we should be taking a look going forward at how do we open up opportunities for employment lands, and maybe this tier program is a good thing from a, large amount investment, like 25 million up. If it's bringing employment that we can measure, like meaningful employment to the region, I think that makes sense. But to include affordability on housing in this program with no context, I don't think we should do that at this time. I really am thinking that it makes more sense if we want to look at affordability, non-market kind of programs to introduce for the municipality. We should be looking at that as a separate issue, not as a part of CIP. So I think that's a worthwhile thing to look at, like what can we do from an affordability perspective on housing altogether. But I'm not in favor of lumping it in with the tiered program without all of what I just described. So that's my thinking on the tiered program.
And through the chair. So excellent comments, because it's all the comments that we've had talking internally. It's one of the reasons we structured the tier program the way it is, kind of in the CIP specifically for the ICI sector of it. There should not be anything in here regarding affordability at this point in time. It was we discussed it, we removed it prior to just being brought forward to council. But the TIE program, the way it's in the CIP right now is just for an information purposes for the developer to spur that conversation. Early on in the development, we can say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we have. It is then up to that developer to provide council with all that information that you were just requesting. What kind of employment, what kind of economic benefits, all that information that they bring forward to council, and then council makes a decision. Every project is going to be specific on the amount of tax revenue, right? that is rebated, and even the length of time that that's rebated. It could be specific to that project. Okay. So there should not be anything within this proposed CIP regarding non-market housing at this point.
Okay, I'd have to go back and check that on that page, but I've had a lot of paper in front of me this afternoon and I thought I saw that. Yeah, okay. Even having said that, I'm wondering with the fact that all of that information has to come to council, why we would even have the tier program in the CIP, because it's not really something actionable, but it is something we're trying to notify the public that we're amenable to. And I'm not really sure that that's clearly articulated in here. So I'm just asking you to take another look at that whole section because it looks like it's number 6, but it's not number 6.
Any comment, Mike?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like so through the chair. It is supposed to be just in informational purposes, like I said earlier. It's not one of the streams that they apply and then we internally, staff at the staff level, can provide those grants, enter into the agreements, so on and so forth. The intent through the CIP is just for information to the developers, making them aware that it is here. It is potentially available for them to go in front of council and provide their information and apply for this TIER program or request the TIER program. And this is probably one of the better platforms to utilize that information in, is because I know a lot of the developers do ask if we have a CIP program or a plan. So we can always provide that information early on in the process.
Okay. So what we're really trying to say in this whole tier is that there's an opportunity for developers to apply through council,
Yes,
is what we're saying.
yes.
Okay.
Rebecca, please.
Through the chair, Councillor Vaughn, would it be, maybe we could just change the title. It is a CIP, Community Improvement Plan. And then maybe just add something, and tier, something with the tier as well in the title, just to kind of separate the two. Rather than a totally separate tier information. Because as Mike noted, developers are familiar with CIPs. So that was one of the reasons that we put it in here as another incentive program for them to look at.
Member Nate.
Thank you through the chair. And the tier program is not just confined to affordable housing. Like there is a clause in here too about major redevelopment, expansion of new and existing commercial and industrial spaces. This includes initiatives like the major redevelopment tax increment equivalent rebate program to attract investments. So like there's a number of different uses that tool can be, not just specifically for affordable housing units, but it'd be nice to, I think, leave that in there so that developers do know that, you know, we would be interested if there was a proposal coming forward. I think that would be worthwhile to at least include that element. We know that affordable housing is an issue, and there's only so many tools we have in the toolbox here at the municipality of South Huron. We have to work a lot with the county to do that, but if there's a way we can do that on our own, then I think that'd be worthwhile to include that to signal to developers that we might be interested.
Sorry, Member McLeod had
Sorry. Sorry, through you. I was kind of going to go off what Member Neeb was saying, but is there also maybe something that we could do, adding a schedule to this, kind of outlining what Member Vaughn said with respect to the housing part?
through the chair, do you mean adding in the housing or not?
Not necessarily adding it into number 7, but adding a schedule to this at the end to outline the scope of what we would be looking at for housing, for low income housing.
Through the chair. So to clarify, affordable housing and non-market housing, which is the same thing, is not in the proposed tier program right now at all. It's not in. Staff was going to review and look at the framework that the Ontario government has proposed or provided for upper tier municipalities to utilize. And that's an optional subclass taxation rebate. And Kate's going to be mad at me. It's not optional tax subclass, and there she is. Kate can provide a little bit more information on that if you wish.
Go ahead, Kate.
Through the chair, if everybody can hear me okay. The Ontario provincial government implemented an optional tax subclass for addressing affordable housing in 2025. At the time, there was not an established framework in place for how that would be managed, whether it would be at the municipality level, at the county level, or at MPAC's level. Now, in order to initiate an optional tax subclass, it must be initiated at the upper tier level. There would have to be consensus between the lower tiers as to the implementation of that, as well as the threshold for it. So the optional tax subclass as it stands right now, with the provincial framework, allows for an up to 35% reduction in municipal taxes when a tax subclass bylaw has been passed at the county level. The framework for the administration of this is actually now part of MPAC's responsibility. They do have, they collect the information about the rental housing. It is specific to multi-residential, more than 7-unit properties at this point in time. They collect the information, they determine eligibility based on the MMAH thresholds that are established. And again, it would be a discussion that we would have at the county level to see whether or not there is interest across the lower tiers as well.
Thank you. Marissa.
Okay, if I could just add a little bit of clarity here. Okay, when I go back and look at the CIP again on page 22, Mike is absolutely right. Non-market programs are not mentioned in here. Might have been under one rendition, but not in the one we're looking at right now. However, in the staff report, under impact analysis, on the 4th paragraph, it does say the community impacts of the tier program are also positive. Agreed, whether through the ICI or the non-market program. So I'm not sure what the non-market program means here in paragraph 4. I thought it meant the affordable housing piece. Maybe you could just tell me what that was supposed to mean.
Most certainly, through the chair.
Go ahead.
So both the report and the plan were very liquid for the last 2 weeks. So as we discussed through staff internally, we're preparing the plan and preparing the report at the same time. My thoughts went a different direction. I changed the report, changed the plan accordingly, but I missed a non-market program. So non-market program is not being proposed in the plan and should not have been in the report.
Okay, so also just wanted to provide some clarity here. I think it's a good idea to look at possible affordable housing programs. I just don't think it belongs in the CIP. So there's so many moving pieces. The county, we now know, is a moving piece too. It should be thought through in a more robust way, is my thinking on that. So.
Member Oak.
Thank you, Chair. So the grant program, there's a reserve of 350,000 today. And so there's the grant program, so many dollars for the grant program per year. And the calculations. What about the tier program? Do we have a budget for that? And where would that money come from if the tier program is implemented? Where does that funding come from?
And that would probably I would have either Julia or Kate maybe can provide a bit better of an explanation, but that is basically taxes, reduction of taxes of what we collect.
Through the chair, so I can just add on, I guess, a bit to that. It would just be foregone tax revenues that we would have been able to newly get. So that growth figure that I often say is these new tax dollars that we're getting, that would be lower than it could have been, is essentially where that would be funded from.
Thank you.
Councilor Vaughn.
Thank you, Chair. Just one other question, which was about derelict properties. At one point, we had that derelict properties were not eligible for the program, and now we have decided, possibly because of the Huron County or Huron Chamber comments, that maybe we should include derelict properties. The whole word derelict and the lack of a definition is kind of problematic. I've seen it happen different ways in that I know of at least one municipality who's actually charging much, much higher tax rates for derelict properties because they're trying to incent you do something about it. So I'm just wondering, considering the amounts of dollars that we have per application and use here, what help we really think we're going to be given a derelict property if it's really truly derelict. So I'm wondering why we made them eligible now for these 5 things.
So the chair, it was another internal staff discussion. So yeah, originally derelict vehicles, derelict buildings were not permitted to apply for the CIP program. Now, through the comment received, we have decided to make it eligible for those derelict buildings to apply, or the owner thereof to apply to have that building revitalized for use. One caveat that we did put in the plan was that the funding would not be able to be paid back until the project was complete. So in saying that, like, derelict building is a building that's basically ready to come down. It's ready to be demolished and rebuilt. If somebody wants to preserve it for any reason, whether it's sentimental or whether it's some sort of a heritage building or something along that line, then they can do that through the CIP, just as long as the project is complete in its entirety, and then they get their grant funding.
I understand the process. I just don't understand why we brought them back in. Because usually when something's derelict, it takes a lot to bring it to the forefront. And the dollars that we have on the table isn't really what I would consider money that will help a derelict building at this, bring it out of that status kind of thing. Yeah. And one other thing too, which is first come, first serve. I saw that terminology in a lot of different places. And so we haven't seen the application process or the forms because that's coming after the bylaw, apparently. And so first come, first serve. I'm assuming that our CIP person is actually going to look at the relative merits of any of these applications. It's not just whoever applies first, obviously, automatically gets the money. Like, how's that supposed to work?
It's an excellent question. First come, first served basis is on there is because the CIP administrator does not want to have to be the person to review each one and pick out what we think or staff thinks is the most eligible or is going to do the most for the municipality. It's first come, so if you make the application, whether it's Main Street Exeter, Main Street Centralia, or somewhere else, Grand Bend, that application has no less merit than the next application. If you apply first, we will review you first. If you meet all applicable requirements within the CIP, you get your grant funding. Well, you get to enter into the agreement, and then if the project's complete and if you provide your invoices, then you get your grant money.
I'll follow up to that. Because it went on to say after first come, first serve, like let's say we have 100,000, okay, for the first year or whatever the figure is. When we get to that point, we've done all the first come, first serve to get to that point. And then it says something to the effect of those that we didn't get to, but who applied kind of thing, are first in line for the next year's round. Is that the way we intended it to go?
Yes.
Yeah, so we could have tons of applications this year and have applications taking us out for the next 5.
It's through the chair. It's definitely possible. If we get a flood of applications and we meet our limit for this year, then yeah, we'll make those applicants aware of where we're at, what's going on, and then
Sorry, Mike.
no worries. Through the chair, like I was saying, if we get a flood of applicants, and we've reached our limit for that year, then yeah, we'll let those applicants know that we've reached our limit, and we will either can reapply or we can keep them on the list for the next year.
Okay, thanks.
Any further? Councilor Need.
In terms of the grant funding too, like the applicants might have to put some money in as well too. So it's not as if like, I think that's the real benefit here is we're able to get some matching dollars from the public to make some of these targeted investments. So I'm excited to see what we can do, especially when it comes to downtown revitalization, but also the agriculture piece as well. There's a lot of really interesting bits that I think that can benefit the entire municipality. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Written comments are attached to the report. Are there any members of the public that would like to ask questions or provide comments? I don't see any public. Is there anyone online?
There's no members of the public online.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of council? Seeing none. Are there any further comments or questions from a member of the public or council? Next steps.
Through the chair, if there are no amendments required on the CIP, then it will be brought back to the next council meeting in July for consideration.
Seeing nothing. Resolution to close the public meeting.
That South Huron Council now closes this public meeting at 5:34 p.m.
Moved by Member Neeb, seconded by Member Oak. All in favor? It's carried.